Senegal's government has introduced changes to its 2014 asset declaration law, expanding the number of officials who must declare their wealth and lowering the threshold for those managing public funds. So more officials like judges, prosecutors, local leaders, and heads of public firms will have to be transparent about their assets. Now, the bill or the changes billed as, a step towards fighting corruption. But the most controversial element is that the president will not have to declare his assets when he leaves office, which many people see as a big loophole. Supporters say that the Constitution only requires a start-of-term declaration, while critics say that real transparency should include the president too. Now, the particular issue has sparked heated debate ahead of the National Assembly's upcoming session on August 18, raising questions about whether Senegal's fight against corruption will be consistent or selective. Now, joining us to unpack this, we have Chidimma Makuachukwu. She's a policy analyst, and we also have Cyprian Edward-Ekpo. He's the Director General, Institute of Law Research and Development of the United Nations. Thank you so much, gentleman and lady, for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you.
All right, so let me begin with you, Chidimma. Chidimma, the most controversial line here is that the president is not required to declare his assets, at the end of his term as president. Now, most critics have actually said that transparency begins with the head of state. Speak to us. How do you respond to this?
Hello, sir. This is...
Hello, Chidimma. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Did you get my question?
Sorry, no.
Okay, so would love to have your thoughts, on this whole issue, especially where, some critics have actually said that transparency begins with the head of state. And considering that he's not required to, declare his assets after office, what would you have to say about this?
Agree with you. Everybody understands that transparency begins with our leaders. When you are out of there, you must be accountable on what you did, what's remaining, what you have. Outside the pension aspect of it, here in Nigeria, they have small something they give to them. They even give them out. So we must know what you came out with, and for him to be exempted, I'm saying it's not transparent enough, and it's young, and he's leading this youth not to how would I put it? Youth in politics is an example in Africa, so he should lead with the example. He should, for the fact that he's going to be exempted, it's not good. It's not giving a good message for the continent. It's not giving a good message. It's not sending the response. It's not good for the upcoming ones. Because if you put up such, definitely the ones coming will do worse than this. And so the assets declaration must be while in office and out of office periodically. Even as sometimes, as far as you are a public servant and you serve the nation, it's a must that the people get to know what's there and what's not there and what's going on, because you are leading by example.
Okay, let's see if Cyprian has been able to connect with us. Cyprian, let's have your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I lost your volume, so I didn't even have the question.
Oh, we just want to know what you think about, the whole issue.
Okay, the new bill of the Senegal bill, anti-corruption asset declaration bill, I think number 15th of 2025. Yeah, the bill, while the country have the right to always amend their laws, expand it or restrict it, depending on what the circumstances that is facing the country at the time. The problem we have, mostly in Africa, is and laws being made with deliberate creation of professions that sustain some level of impunity. So my opinion, I've looked at it the 2025 bill as proposed by the president of the country, or the executive arms of government, as I may call it, and the scope, which is unlike the 2014 Act or 2014 law, the new bill requires a broader range of officials to declare their asset. But what is surprising and quite shocking is why the president is being made an exception to that commitment and that responsibility. I don't think that is a good law, because the president, unlike other public officials, is an official of the public official and a representative of the people. So the same law that binds the lowest rank of public official on issues of corruption should also bind the president.
So you think that the Constitution should be amended and the law should be changed to avoid any form of contradictions?
I don't even see anything wrong with the Constitution. I think it's a wrong interpretation. Their defense of talking about section, I think they talk about section 37 of the Constitution that will not allow the president to make that declaration the second time. It's a wrong interpretation. If you look at that, I don't know how their lawyers interpret it. That sections all talk about the inauguration of the president, swearing of the president. It does not expand to the fact that, or the position of the law, that the president is not subjected to scrutiny after he has been sworn in for the first time, or when it's about leaving the office, that he cannot be held responsible for public service. Everybody, every person, whether president or not, should be subject to the law. So the issue of using the Constitution and talk about amendment, I think it's just a sort of a superfluous statement. I don't see anything wrong with that Constitution. It's a erroneous interpretation.
All right. Now, you did say that everyone, even the president, should be subject to this law. Now, let's come back to you, Chidimma. Hearing that, the bill expands reporting to, prosecutors, investigating judges, local officials, and also heads of public firms, and lowers the reporting threshold from 1 billion CFA franc to 500 million CFA franc for public managers or public budget managers. Now, in your view, can you justify why that specific cut, I'm talking about from the 1 billion to 500 million, was chosen, and what real difference you feel this might actually make to transparency? Hello, Chidimma. All right, let me pass that question to you, Cyprian. Please go ahead.
Yeah, the threshold that they are trying to create, I don't see anything wrong with that threshold, because at some time they might be looking at the economic circumstance or situation of the country. So as I said, laws are always amended, subject to the circumstance facing the country at the moment of which the legislature.
So when you say they're probably looking at the economic circumstance, are you saying that since the country isn't all that rich, that the possibility of them stealing a large chunk, as much as 1 billion, might be lesser compared to smaller sums like 500 million CFA francs?
Certainly, that may be one of the reasons. So you look at the economy, the GDP and all those of the country will be put into place under consideration. So they understand what they want to achieve realistically by reducing the amount. So I don't see any problem wrong with that. Where the bill has issue is why the president has to exclude himself from accountability. So that's not a good law, and that shouldn't be allowed. So the legislature of that country must leave off the responsibility to make sure that such a law does not stand.
Oh, okay, but then
because it makes the president not just a king, it makes the president a god.
All right, now I know you did
Above them.
say, I know you did say that, you don't see anything wrong with them reducing the amount, but then isn't that in itself also a risk, lowering that particular threshold, doesn't that, it shifts corruption into smaller, less visible contracts and actually actors as well. So the little that they're making, the little that the economy is making is also being siphoned, which is not, so different from the large amount, if you ask me. So how will that be monitored?
Let me put it this way. The legislature may decide that, let me make it simplistic. The legislature may decide that, oh, if someone decides to steal this amount of money, it may not really have a negative impact on the economy of the country. Or it could also be that if we restrict to these lower levels of amount of money, it could also affect some workings of the government in a way that it forces everything at that level of money to be passed through appropriations and all level different level of scrutiny. So they may have their own motive. We don't understand their motive appropriately. We're just trying to juxtapose it. So I do not see the reason or anything wrong in the legislature deciding that we want to change the law from this position to this position. That's what they would be able to establish or explain to the public in their debate. Because I believe before that is passed into law, there will be a public debate in the floor of the legislature or of the parliament. So at that period or that time where that debate comes up, you will be able to understand what's the motive behind the change in the amount. That is my position.
All right. Now, so is exempting the president from an end-of-term declaration a legal technicality? Do you see it as that, or is it a dangerous precedent, that could weaken anti-corruption efforts? Because you did say that, they begin to see him as God.
Extremely dangerous president, as I said, that it makes the president a god above the law. So it means the president is entitled to, he has been given, will be given statutory power to commit all manners of financial atrocities, financial crimes, and will not be held responsible. That's what it means. So every other person is subject to law except the president. That's no democracy. That's no governance.
All right. So how likely is this proposed law, to be enforced? Because we're still waiting for sometime in August, for a National Assembly meeting, for it to be brought in as a law, right? To pass through as law. Do you think that the institution will check these declarations and will it have powers to investigate discrepancies and also publish these results, which is very, very important for transparency?
That is the duty of the legislature, the duty of the parliament, of the Senegal, to make sure that they create mechanisms that will guarantee that such law is enforceable. Because you have a problem of having some laws, and mostly in African countries, a lot of laws are not enforceable. You have a problem of having some laws that have issues with constitutional provisions that contradict provincial provisions, or some constitutional provisions that will not allow some legal mechanism in a statute to become forceful or applicable when the situation calls for is for the public to take action based on the law. So what is the duty of the legislature to make sure that they create provision to ensure that the laws are enforceable? And that's one of the ways of checking that is to make sure that you look at the constitutional provision, that there's no provision in the Constitution that will defeat the purpose of that law. Just like they're talking about Section 37 of the Constitution, which they are using now as a subject of defense. why the president is not should not be subject to, or this president should be exempted. They have to look at that provision, and if they come to conclusion that that provision actually, which I do not believe so, that provision actually exempt or give the president that immunity, and then such a provision of the constitution should be amended, or the law should be fine-tuned or drafted in such a way that is actually aligned with the constitutions and be energized by the constitutional provision. Because once it contradicts, or with once it's contrary to the provision of the constitution, then the purpose of the law is defeated.
All right, now you talked about
so
it,
that's
you know,
the work of the parliament.
You talked about it being amended, you know, but how likely are the objections, to succeed in the National Assembly? Because even the opposition parties, such as PASTEF, have actually said that the exemptions infringes on rights.
Yeah.
I'm speaking because if the National Assembly is as rubber stamp as some other countries actually have it, they're likely to tilt towards the ruling party as well.
That's a problem we have in contemporary democracies, and it has been very much the characterization of African politics, where the president is always like always a king, and the president dictates, and the people play sycophantic rule. And in fact, of course, we know this is not the only generic to Africa. Recently, and of course, this recent time, we have seen even in the Western world begin to have the same problem of the party members, of people playing partisan politics and polarizing the politics and law in such a way that the president becomes a dictator. So enabling dictatorship and authoritarian tendencies for a president. So that's an issue. You cannot really be able to solve that problem. It's only the citizenry that can solve that problem when they are participating in the electioneering process to determine the kind of people they elect to the legislature. So everyone knows, every member of a community knows other members of the communities that they hail from, and they are sharing the brotherhood of the community. So they know, they should always know the kind of people they send or elect to go to the parliament. That these are people who will not compromise their integrity and will not compromise the welfare of the citizenry and the welfare of the country.
Absolutely.
To save a particular person. So that's the only way to address that problem. So if you have a rubber stamp parliament, there's nothing you can do about that. Unless the citizens will have to hold them responsible by forcing them to do what is right and proper.
Okay.
So it's left for the citizens of the country.
All right. So let's hear from Chidimma. I'm told that she has rejoined. Chidimma, thank you for reconnecting with us. So we're talking about transparency, and we'd love for you to tell us how transparent you think the asset register should be to the public and the press, especially.
Okay, thank my take on this is the exemption. It's not giving the president a good light. Even with the opposition, it's not giving him a good light. So there is need, there is always need. When it comes to asset declaration, our leaders to be right with it, our leaders to be transparent with it, because these are the things that motivate the people to know that, hey, you are in there, good for them. And once it's not transparent, you weaken the faith they have in democracy, the faith they have in government. So on this Senegalese, I know with the critics out there, the criticism out there, I believe the president is very young. He will take, the constitution is okay. I don't think amendment is
necessary.
They should push fully. Yeah, but it's on that asset declaration that they should critically edit and work on it.
So should there be online searchable records, or should access be restricted?
Yes, it's possible. That's the innovation we operate at Africa Tech the route with. It's good. It will give people the impression that you really want to be transparent with what you are doing. If we can have such database, it's good. It's possible. It's something that is there with. So Africa should work towards such direction, especially Senegalese and other African countries.
All right, so now let's come back to you. Looking at the arguments, that excluding the president undermines the moral authority of the law. Now, do you think that the government in any way cares about, the reputation cost domestically and internationally, affecting relations with international partners such as IMF, donors, even investors who have demanded stronger governance after debt irregularities, sorry?
These are the issues, because once I can go on, right?
Yeah, please go ahead. You've started already. Please go ahead.
Yeah, these are the issues. Once the people you are seeking help from see that you're not putting up the necessary framework, the policies, the implementation that is needed, the structural framework that will give them the capacity to believe, if we give you this, you can implement it, and we are sure. Definitely, they will not take you serious. These are some of the reasons they are not taking African countries serious, because you are seeking for help, you are seeking for aid, and you are not creating the necessary framework to actually make the people that are going to give you the aid guarantee the aid to you. Definitely, they will not take us serious. So there is need to strengthen our institutional framework. Senegalese should lead by example.
Oh, okay. Now let's hear some question from you, Cyprian. Do you think the government really cares about how they're viewed internationally and domestically?
They only care when they are no longer the African politicians, as the way I view them, when they are no longer in power, when they cease to become holders of diplomatic passports. They do care at that point. But when they are in power, they seem to have an eclipse of reasonableness in their mentality. Just like Chidimma said, the way the African leaders and African leaders make the world to look at the institutions, African institutions, as institutions that are not strong and that lack transparency, is affecting African citizens everywhere. That's why you see issues of most time you hear issues of visa ban, restriction, and African countries not being included in most of the developed countries' visa-free, visa waiver profession. These are the issues that they look at, and this really hampers African development, and not just development in terms of societal-based development, in terms of the development affecting the African citizenry. Wherever they are, makes people look at the holders of African passport in a very questionable manner. So these are the issues. And until they realize this, that these are the causal elements of underdevelopment, of a continual underdevelopment of Africa. So we will continue to have all these problems. It takes, for example, a president creating a law or proposing a law that remove himself from accountability. How do you expect the other part of the world to look at you? And it's very unfair. And unfortunately, we just pray that the parliament won't be a rubber stamp parliament that just say, okay, let's go with that. Because if that's happened, and it really caused a real reputational loss for that country. And by extension, for Africa, because people keep looking at Africans as the African climate as if all of them are the same. So they should do better, and Africans should do better to move towards the realm of transparency in governance and move towards knowledge-based system than this aspect of one person who wants to be very rich with public funds and are not being accountable to the public.
Okay, now let's come back to you, Chidimma. Chidimma, now speaking of, the parliament. We know that the law is due for debate in the National Assembly on the 18th of August. That's a few days from now. What should be the key parliamentary battlegrounds, and who are the vote swingers to watch?
I think with the criticisms thus far, the president should be able to redirect on that asset declaration law. The fact that him being exempted, it's a no for what it's going to do, for how young he is, and we have a lot of African youth looking up to him. So that should be the most important thing that should be addressed. It should be addressed and, would I say, withdrawn, and make people to still believe in the process, make people to still believe in government, in democracy. Thank you.
All right, so let's hear your final thoughts, Cyprian. Speaking of this, since it's due for debate in a few days, what should be the key, point of discussion in the Assembly about this bill?
My point should be my advice to the members of the National Assembly of Senegal is while the motive behind the bill could be a welcome idea, they have to try to be independent-minded and not becoming hero worshippers to the president. Always know that that president will not cease to be president one day, and there will be other presidents. And when you make the law, sometimes trying to protect a particular individual, you don't know you are creating an avenue for future disaster that might turn around to even affect you in person. So they should be able to be bold enough and brave enough to ensure that the provision of the law is expanded to also include accountability on the part of the presidents. That should be my advice. And the issue of the threshold is subject to the analysis to be able to convene the Senegalese citizenry why that should be, to set advantage against the disadvantage, and logically move to conclusion before they pass the bill into law.
All right. Well, thank you so much, gentleman and lady. Chidimma Makuachukwu, policy analyst, and Cyprian Edward-Ekpo, Director General, Institute of Law Research and Development of the United Nations, for joining us on the conversation.